Marianne, you lack compassion. Do you know how I felt accepting your pregnancy? Men can't just instantly brace themselves when they hear about a pregnancy, and yet you kept on pressing me about it. You really only think about yourself.
I've had enough. Maybe it's time to lay it all out. Just as I reached for the shelf, my father-in-law spoke up. I'm Marianne. I live with my husband, Hank, and his parents, making us a family of 4. My college friends and colleagues often ask me how I manage to live with my in-laws, but we get along really well. Honestly, I used to think living with in-laws was absolutely out of the question before I got married. I didn't want to get caught up in the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues. But just before our wedding, my father-in-law, Paul, had a serious accident. That incident led us to start living together, and I realized they are incredibly kind and thoughtful people. My mother-in-law, Susan, who's been a homemaker all her life, cooks amazing meals. I join her in the kitchen on weekends, but during the week, she insists on doing all the household chores herself, saying, "You're tired from work." The most I help with is washing the dishes. Paul also helps out with chores when he has time. I know he even gives her shoulder massages after she's done with her work. Seeing them together, they seem like such a wonderful couple. I want Hank and me to be like them. I'm really excited about our future. Then, 6 months into our marriage, I found out I was pregnant. Concerned about my health, Paul drove me to the doctor. He waited in the waiting room. Susan accompanied me all the way to the exam room. When they found out about the pregnancy, her eyes sparkled with excitement, telling me she'd take care of it. Having her, who was as thrilled as if it were her own news, and Paul always smiling at us, I'm so grateful they were there for me. But my husband, who should have been the happiest, looked unsettled when he heard about the pregnancy. A child is a life-changing event. Naturally, a husband would feel a bit of fear. Yet, I believed that, over time, he would come to embrace his role as a father. I tried to convince myself that he was just shaken by the sudden news. But his behavior felt more and more off as my pregnancy progressed. He avoided any talk about the baby, didn't engage even when his parents talked about their first grandchild, and started retreating to his room after dinner. He would go out on weekends too. Watching him, my anxiety grew. His parents seemed to sense his change as well. Paul would occasionally try to talk to him in his room, and Susan scolded him, saying, "You should be more considerate of your pregnant wife." Throughout this time, they continued to care about how I felt and my health. Things couldn't continue like this. I truly appreciated the kindness of my in-laws. But without uniting with my husband, our future wouldn't be bright. I decided it was time to talk to Hank. "Hey, aren't you happy about the baby?"
No, it's not that. It's just a feeling I can't understand. I'm really tired. Can we talk another time? And my room is my private space, my only place to relax. Please, don't come in for heavy talks. I was infuriated by his evasive attitude, but I couldn't just let this go. Our child's future was at stake. I tried to calm my anger and chose my words carefully. "All right, I understand. So, when can we talk?" I don't know.
Okay, I'll check back later. I really wanted to talk. Ideally, I should have pressed the issue, but this was important. I didn't want to make things worse by pushing him. It wouldn't be meaningful unless we could have a serious conversation. So, I decided to wait for another opportunity. But every time I tried to talk, he would say,
I'm tired.
or,
Not now.
and avoid it. I was at my wits' end. I couldn't think of anything but to take a firmer approach. A week later, I stood in front of his room.
What?
He looked at me, annoyed. I shouldn't back down. I've waited long enough. Our baby will only be inside me for 9 months. I couldn't afford to take my time. About the baby,
Oh, that again? I don't want to hear it.
you need to listen today. This can't wait any longer. What's with your attitude? You don't seem happy about the baby.
So, what if I'm not?
You're being so selfish. Did you think pregnancy happens alone? Of course not.
Well, I never wanted a kid.
But you're the one who refused birth control.
I didn't think it would happen so fast.
And what does that mean? You can't be happy about the baby?
Not really. Well, my parents are happy, so that's good, right? I guess I did my duty as a son.
What? Children aren't tools for pleasing parents.
Is that so?
You don't seem to be changing your mind.
And what if I'm not?
I'll raise the baby alone.
What? What does that mean?
Exactly what I said. I'll divorce you and raise the child myself. A father who doesn't want his own child is only harmful. Suddenly, he pressed me against the door with all his might, expressionless.
Who do you think you are? Huh? You have some nerve suggesting divorce. You think I'll be the one getting divorced? Don't talk such nonsense.
I felt like crying from the shock. My once kind husband had changed completely. The fact that he wasn't happy about the pregnancy tore me apart. But I didn't want to cry or show any weakness. I wanted to be strong. I closed my eyes tightly, and suddenly Hank's hand released my shoulder with a loud thud. When I opened my eyes, I saw him crouching, holding his head, and my mother-in-law, Susan, looking furious, holding a chopping board, was there. You idiot! What are you doing to Marianne? Your job is to protect her, and instead you're pinning her down. Disgraceful! She was furiously waving the chopping board. Hank couldn't resist and seemed even smaller. Susan. She turned to me and offered the chopping board. I'm sorry, Marianne. Here, it's your turn now. Hank had indeed hurt me, and our child, but I couldn't bring myself to hit him as he shrank in fear. You're such a kind person, sweetheart. You could be giving this foolish son a piece of your mind. Hank, what's with your attitude lately? Aren't you prepared to be a father? Absolutely disgraceful, you idiot. It's not that. I'm just scared. Men suddenly become fathers. Women feel the baby growing and moving, becoming a mother. But I don't have that. So I become a father all at once. How can I be confident? It's not like I haven't thought about it. What are you saying? That's a poor excuse for your behavior. She raised the chopping board again. Susan, it's okay now.
But...
Really, it's okay. Thanks to you, I heard his true feelings. Thank you, Susan. My husband was just deep in thought. He does care about our child. He just hadn't fully realized it. He was just scared. At that moment, I wanted to believe he had spoken his true feelings. Though, in reality, they might have been just excuses. I just didn't want to admit that fact. That day, when Pa came home, Hank was taken aback. His attitude seemed to soften, but people's personalities don't change that easily. And 6 months later, I gave birth to twins. My in-laws rushed to the hospital and congratulated me. Hank, who came in with them, was smiling.
Here, this is for the babies.
He handed me a paper bag. It looked like something from a fast food restaurant for a baby gift.
Really, Hank's cluelessness might be our fault. A paper bag for a baby gift is unthinkable. Well, bringing a gift shows some fatherly awareness, I guess.
Susan seemed pleased with Hank's action, despite her words. I took the bag, unsealed, and reached inside. 2 pink baby outfits.
A pink for boys? Well, these days, we shouldn't say things like, because it's a boy or a girl.
I threw the pink baby outfits into the trash, while she happily talked. Hank's mouth twisted into a smirk when he saw it. But my in-laws were in a panic, not knowing the reason.
Marianne, what are you doing? That's not like you. Our son chose those with care. How could you throw them in the trash? Didn't you like the color? He deserves an apology for this.
My in-laws, always sensible, were troubled and scolded me. It's unbelievable that he's their son. Did you look at the tags?
Huh?
She reached into the trash can and pulled out the baby clothes.
This one says Venus, and this one says Luna. Wait, these aren't brand new, are they? If you look closely, they're yellowed. Hank, are these second-hand?
Both parents were shaking, but they seemed unable to get angry. They probably thought Hank bought them with good intentions, even if they were second-hand.
Marianne, you're pretty awful, you know that? I chose these second-hand clothes thinking about our babies. You just threw them in the trash. How cold. Mom and Dad, you see this, right? This is her true nature.
The parents fell silent. Hank, encouraged by this, continued his attack.
Marianne, you lack compassion. Do you know how I felt accepting your pregnancy? Men can't just instantly brace themselves when they hear about a pregnancy. Yet, you kept on pressing me about it. You really only think about yourself.
I've had enough. Maybe it's time to lay it all out. Just as I reached for the shelf, my father-in-law spoke up.
The only one who's self-centered here is you, Hank. What? Why me? A woman who's just given birth can be emotionally unstable. Giving birth is a big deal. She might cry over small things, get angry, or feel uncontrollable emotions. But we fathers should accept that. She gave birth to our precious children. Shouldn't we be grateful for that? Yet you only blame Marianne, who's just giving birth. Who's the selfish one here? You're pathetic. No, I mean, I knew that, but she threw away the gift I gave her. That's terrible, isn't it?
Yes, she did something terrible. Marianne, I should tell you first. I'm sorry, you didn't need to apologize.
What?
I would have done the same. Who would want to dress their babies in faded, yellowed clothes? You should want to give them a nice outfit for their first change. Did you even think at all? You spent money on this? No, Susan, he didn't spend any money.
Oh, really? How do you know?
Because he got them from Venus and Luna's mother.
Who?
Didn't you see the names on the tags? Venus and Luna? Hank's expression changed visibly. This was amusing in its own way.
What do you mean?
They belonged to Hank's mistress's children.
What?
Hank, you're disgusting. You approached a woman at work who has twins just to spite me? To harass me? Isn't that right? She's married too, isn't she? Here's the proof. I placed an envelope on the bed, exposing my husband's affair right after giving birth. Certainly a rare experience, but it's okay. I don't need such a husband. Hank was the first to reach for the envelope. He was slapped by Susan, and Paul ended up holding the envelope.
Wait, Dad, give that to me. Marianne's just crazy from the childbirth. I'm your real child, right? Marianne's just my wife, your daughter-in-law. She's a stranger. Marianne is our daughter. It's obvious whom to believe based on your behavior.
Hank and I work at the same company. Even on maternity leave, information is easy to come by. His colleagues spilled everything. Hiring a detective agency to gather evidence was simple.
You, get out of here now. Don't think you could come back home. You're no longer our son. Don't ever show your face again. Wait, don't you understand me? I wanted to enjoy more time, just the two of us, but she got pregnant on her own. Be quiet. Marianne, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for raising such a child. I'm sorry.
She was crying. My strong-willed mother-in-law. I thought she might raise her fist, but instead she clenched her hands and wept.
The only thing you can do now is pay alimony. Pay whatever amount she asks for. What? Why? This was just a little fling, and she's partly to blame for not understanding my feelings. Hey, Marianne, you get where I'm coming from, right? I just wanted to cherish more time with just the two of us. You feel the same, don't you?
He really only thinks about himself. It's always me, me, me. I don't understand your feelings, and I don't need to. Sign the divorce papers right now. I thrust the divorce papers at him, and his face stiffened further. It's hard to comprehend his feelings. Why make such a face? Why refuse divorce after cheating? And why take such spiteful actions just hours after I gave birth? The alimony will be $73,000. I'll also claim $30,000 from the woman. You're really the worst. To think you'd approach a woman with twins out of spite? That's just disgusting. Oh, I said disgusting in front of your parents. Sorry about that, Susan and Paul.
No, you're right. My son is disgusting. Stop dawdling and sign the divorce papers.
Initially, my husband kept refusing, but he couldn't keep defying his own parents, and reluctantly signed the divorce papers. Susan checked every word and then signed the witness section without hesitation. Paul did the same.
Marianne, are you sure it's okay for me to submit these to the office?
Yes, I have no doubts. The only sad part is that we won't be family anymore.
What are you talking about, sweetheart? Blood relation or not, you're our daughter. That's a fact that will never change. Susan, stay with Marianne. I'll take responsibility for submitting these. And I'll make sure Hank leaves here. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. I haven't even seen my daughters yet. Just a quick look at my cute girls. Enough. There's no way we're letting you see them.
Paul grabbed Hank by the scruff of his neck and dragged him out of the hospital room. Did he say daughters? My babies are 2 boys. He never showed interest in his own babies until the end. Susan, I'm sorry.
Why are you apologizing? You have nothing to apologize for, Marianne. We'll always be on your and your son's side. We're still family.
Couldn't help but sob. They were so kind. I had decided not to cry as long as he was in the room. I did well, I think. I showed my tears for the last time, determined to be a strong mother. Our future is bright after all. 10 days later, I was discharged from the hospital with the twins and returned to my in-laws' house. I had lost my parents at a young age and had no other relatives. My in-laws welcomed me warmly even after the divorce. With their help, I successfully received the alimony. I owe them so much. My ex-husband was transferred to a regional branch after his affair was exposed. The office clerk, his mistress, was forced to resign. When I return from maternity leave, they won't be there. It will be a much more comfortable work environment. I initially resisted relying on my in-laws after the divorce, but they continued to support me and the kids as before. They respected my decision not to take child support. I didn't want to raise my children with his money. Susan understood.
Don't worry about money. With the three of us working together, we can overcome anything. 3 people make a strong team.
Thank you. Raising twins will be challenging, but I have my children and in-laws by my side. I feel like I can do anything. If I have to thank my ex-husband for one thing, it's for introducing me to his parents. If anything happens to them, I'll definitely be there to help. We are a family after all.